Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Just a couple of observations on what Phil Berg has kindly informed us about. If you look at Orly Tates, she has all the earmarks of what we'd have to call a counter gang. That is to say, Berg is out there fighting to do a competent legal job on this, and he's also not a reactionary, not a right-winger in any sense, therefore not vulnerable to these charges of God knows what, racism or other things. The basic idea is if you have somebody like Berg who's doing a useful job, you make sure that that niche in public opinion, that space in terms of attention, money, media, and so forth, you put in somebody else to compete, somebody who sounds vaguely the same, where a naive person thinks, well, this is more or less the same, isn't it? Of course, absolutely crucial elements are lacking. It's like having people who do economic commentary simply as commentary, who have no program, who don't try to get anything done. They're not telling you how to get out of the depression. They're simply chronicling the fall, right? And they also fall for God knows what, bear raids. We've seen this in the case of that Robert Fisk article and the people who piled on that, right? People who don't propose a program, but nevertheless, they gleefully chortle as they see the dollar going down. Well, this is now a tragedy on a historical scale. So this is the way that counter gangs are used. It's interesting to consider this in regard to other areas, right? They try to take away attention, money, and space for something which is a very watered down and fundamentally unworkable version, and that's what we see in these cases. So we want to thank Phil Berg. Now, the Barron's, as we were saying, Barron's cover story of 2 weeks ago is that there should be an increase in the Federal Reserve rates. Time to raise rates, Ben, being the story. Time to take away the helicopter, stop dumping money out of the helicopter, and raise interest rates to 2% as fast as you can. We've had Australia already do that. We've had Norway. Notice both countries in the British zone, the British Empire sphere, have raised their interest rates to attract hot money to them, of course, right? You can now borrow at 0% in New York and take that to Norway or to Australia and certainly lock in a certain amount of gain with relatively little risk. That's the idea. Of course, if you do raise the interest rates, as Barron says, you'll be doing something to help the dollar. You'll be keeping hot money in the U.S. You'll be interfering with that carry trade. But you would at that point also pull the rug out from under the stock market bubble and some other asset bubbles that have been going on here in the U.S. So, again, you're getting that Scylla and Charybdis effect, right? The rock and the hard place. If you keep it at 0%, you're going to head into dollar collapse, hyperinflation. If you start raising interest rates, you're going to get chain reaction, bankruptcies, more layoffs, and a much higher unemployment rate. So there are no technical means in the monetarist, Chicago, Austrian, or Keynesian, or neoliberal quiver that can solve this. It's going to take the kind of program which I have been arguing for on these programs, and we're going to get to this in just a minute. Let's just remind people, Pelosi came out with her healthcare bill this week. Harry Reid did also. Both of these pretend to have a public option, but this has been watered down and weakened to the point of virtual non-existence. And remember, the Medicare gouging remains built in. In the Pelosi bill, they say that the Medicare costs have been growing too fast, and therefore they want to cut the annual growth in Medicare spending to 4%. Well, the problem with that is in recent years it's been 7% a year. And this reminds us again that the nerve and fist of these so-called reform programs is to take away your economic rights by gouging $600 billion from Medicare and also other monies from Medicaid. You can look at what Congressman Kucinich had to say about the Pelosi bill, and then we've got the Harry Reid bill. Both of these are wretched, and Obama will stab them in the back even more. On the labor front, we have had the villainous Michelle Rhee, the D.C. District of Columbia education boss, firing almost 300 teachers at the beginning of the academic year as part of her plan to bust the union. What she does is she fires teachers with seniority, experience, and higher pay, and she brings in underpaid idealists and dupes from various programs, so using them as strikebreakers, right, the typical method. And she's getting funded by the foundations to do that. You've got the Boeing company announcing that they're going to build their plant in South Carolina, and everybody points to the fact this is the right-to-work strategy. This is a union-busting strategy because there are no unions in South Carolina. Time to repeal the Taft-Hartley Act, the infamy of 1946, and go back to the Wagner Act so that you can actually form unions in some of these low-wage states. We've also got the fact that the Gettelfinger leadership of the United Auto Workers is attempting to convince the workers, the UAW people at Ford, that they should make more sacrifices. They should do more give back to the company. This, of course, after UAW capitulated in the General Motors and Ford cases and essentially signed itself out of existence, right, lowering the wages, working conditions, and other benefits of their workers in GM and Chrysler plants to the level of southern sweatshops where there are no unions. Now they want to do the same thing with Ford, and now we find that there are UAW locals that are saying no. The parts-making plant at Saline, Michigan, near Detroit, voted 75% against further sacrifice. Research and engineering employees in Dearborn, Michigan, voted 90% against the deal. Locals representing 12,500 workers have voted against, some overwhelmingly, and only 4 locals with 7,000 members have said yes to the deals. We're still waiting for Louisville, Kentucky, Dearborn, Michigan, and some other locals to come in here. Anyway, you get the idea. There's significant resistance inside the UAW. The players, it's been rejected at Clacamo, Missouri, Livonia, Plymouth, Sterling Heights, Flat Rock, Ypsilanti in Michigan, and the people who have capitulated are in Wayne, Michigan, Cleveland, Indianapolis, and St. Paul, Minnesota. So there's your labor front. And remember, the top union buster is Barack Obama, and he does it under left cover. That's why it's so effective. Now let's spend some time on economic program. We will be putting up this, actually by the time you hear this broadcast, you can go to actindependent.org and shortly after that to tarpley.net and see a 2-page version. This is a very condensed, concise version of a New Deal economic program to get the U.S. out of the Depression. Remember,
do you have trouble getting through the day?